Main focus on today's video is getting hopefully an MOT on FSI. So we have a few checks I'm just going to carry out. So I want to look at each corner of the car and check for anything obvious, usual stuff that might cause an issue on the MOT. So let's get on to that and see how we get on. Front wheel stuff is pretty straightforward. You're going to jack up the wheels on either side, check for any play in the wheel, any strange noises on rotation, and check the suspension components. So next I'm just going to check the springs and check there's no rust on them and there's no bits missing from the top or bottom. It's worth pointing out I did have a comment about the discs needing changing. They are new, it's just the car's sat around a bit, so with the wet and hot weather sort of flashing here, they have got some surface rust and you can hear that rotating the wheel. So I'm not worried about that, that'll scrub off once it's gone down the road. Rears are obviously a bit different because we don't have any steering on them, so there shouldn't be any sort of lateral play, and so we just want to generally check around the wheel, making sure there's no movement at all in there. I do have the handbrake on during this check because I wanted to make sure that I couldn't move either the wheel, because that's obviously going to be checked during the MOT. And you can also take the handbrake off and check that the wheel doesn't lock up with the handbrake off as well. And then just checking underneath, these cars are getting quite old now, so it's not uncommon for the rear beam to have some rust on them. Mine's got a bit of surface rust, but it's fine. I'll clean that up perhaps later on. But you can see the new shock absorbers are on there. The springs, they aren't broken. There's obviously a little bit of corrosion. They're not brand new, but I don't think that's much of an issue. And the exhaust all looks fine as well. There was actually an old advisory on a previous MOT for brake lines, but again, I'm not really too worried about those because you can get MOT testers that are really fussy. And then lastly, just checking the tyre treads, checking to make sure there's no sort of cuts or nails and the tread depth's good. I'm just going to distract myself now with an upgrade on a different type of wheel, and I previously changed the gear knob on this to a sport one, but I'm going to swap it over for this matching one. It's pretty straightforward. The gator lifts up, and if you've not done this before, your car hasn't had this done before, you'll probably find there's a metal clip holding the bottom of the gear knob on, but otherwise it's lift on, lift off jobby. What you need to watch out for when you're putting the sort of bottom bit in is to ignore the little tab bit in the middle, and you need to go for the ones that are kind of like at the sort of 11 and 1 position and line those up. It's a little bit tricky to get the hang of, but it should go in and clip in quite nicely. You see here on the back of the steering wheel, there's like a Torx bolt either side that holds the airbag on. So we just need to get to those on the steering wheel that's already on. It's a different type of steering wheel, but it's the same principle. So we can undo the bolts on either side and the airbag should lift off, and then we can disconnect it. This will leave us with a splined nut in the middle of the steering wheel, so I'd recommend using actual spline bits for these. They're cheap enough to buy, and it'll save you a headache if the wrong sort of tools used and you end up rounding this bolt. You can make some marks if you want to keep the position the same. This one already had some. And then putting the new wheel on is just the same thing in reverse. And that's it, and I'm pretty happy with that upgrade, so let's go back to some MOT checks. So next I'm just going to make sure I haven't put any warning lights on because of that change, which I haven't, and just checking the steering itself. Shouldn't be able to hear any funny noises, just apart from like tyre noise and maybe a little bit of power steering noise with the engine running. And you'll maybe notice on here, no warning lights on the dash, but I do have a warning light for the boot being open, which is something I'm going to fix in a minute. But besides that, when you're steering left to right, you shouldn't be hearing any funny clunks or spring noises that sound like bed springs, which might indicate top mounts or other components, and certainly no sort of feeling of play in the wheel, which could be track rod ends, so we're all good there. And then now we're just going to check the position lights or side lights. So these are the bottom lens bulbs in here, and they won't be too bright because they're just position lights. Those ones are used for brakes as well, which we'll check in a minute. I'm just going to go around and make sure that they are working, which, as you can see from here, that's all good. And then we're going to move on to checking the indicators and the number plate light bulbs. Indicators is an important one because there is a relay which can fail on these quite commonly. It can interfere with those working properly, and they are clear lenses, so we're just going to check that the bulbs are all bright orange. I had issues like that before with what I assume is a colour sensitive MOT tester. As you can see here, they are all very much orange. And then, just to be sure, no issues with stalks and things like that, I'm just going to double check the direction indicators on both sides. So the left side's fine, and then we'll check the right side. Beam, which only affects the front, of course, and as you can see there, the inner bulbs on here, all good. The right colour, no special bulbs in there or anything which might upset an MOT tester. And now full beam, and they are the bulbs which are in between the indicators and the dipped ones, and again, all looks good to me. And then now rear fog light. Front fogs aren't testable on an MOT. Rear fogs, we should only have one really on the driver's side, and then brake bulbs So the bottom ones, they should go a bit brighter, and then there's a high level brake bar, for want of a better way of calling it, just above the Audi rings up there, so they're all working too, which is good. And then something which you have fixed, it was a previous MOT fail, just double checking the washer jets and making sure they are working and pointing towards the right place and the wipers working, etc. While I'm here, just going to check the rear view mirrors, all fine, and then the rear fog indicator, which will glow orange when it's on the little switch. Then to solve the issue on the dashboard, I'm just going to swap over this tailgate lock, which is relatively straightforward. This is a spares one I've got, which I think works, and it's held in by two 10mm bolts, and the sort of rear tailgate inner cover like this, it just pulls off. So this is a relatively straightforward job. Usual, if you enjoy these videos, you want to see some more, be sure to click like and subscribe. You can click the bell to get notified when the next video comes up. If you don't want to subscribe, or if you want to know how we're getting on, otherwise I've got an Instagram, there's a TikTok, that kind of stuff, which I stick little videos up every now and again. These bolts are off. This is all relatively straightforward. There's a little bar that connects to the sort of solenoid, and then I'm swapping over the little emergency release cable here onto the new lock, and then that can be put back in place. With that done, I think this is the last thing I'm going to do, ready for the MOT in the morning. So I'm going to put the cover back on, the little emergency cable I'll stick through the hole. Then my way of putting this back on is to punch it in place and then just make sure that the cover has gone in the channel on the actual boot lock, so that it sits kind of behind the outer plastic like that. It's a little channel. And now catch you in the morning for MOT time. So the next morning was pretty typical. I went to start the car up, and for the first time in however long, an engine light came on, and I could only grab this little cheap scanner because I was in a rush, and it gave us this code, which seems to relate to the thermostat, which is new, coolant temperature sensor, but it could have a more specific code on VCDS, but I didn't have time to do that, so I just cleared the code and made my way over. And hopefully it's nothing actually significant, but we'll see. That's it, dropped off for the MOT. Fingers crossed. Let's see how we get on. So it was not good news, and it failed on stuff which has never come up on MOTs before, and some of it I'm kind of glad we recorded, because you should hopefully see how stupid it is, but nonetheless I'm going to take a little bit of time to just mentally recover from this and plan the next stage. So I'm not giving up. We're going to fix what needs fixing, and I will catch you in the next one. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, click like if you like this video. Otherwise, let's go again.
We can leave it all behind. Just breathe and feel